Talk about resilient, upsetting the top-seeded Bucks and the Celtics. Miami returns Jimmy Butler along with emerging stars Bam Adebayo. Everybody got familiar. And, of course, Tyler Hero. Stephen A., can you explain this to me? Why does it seem like everybody's ignoring the Heat, though, when we're talking about this upcoming season in the East?
I think because, number one, a lot of people looked at what transpired last year as an aberration. They snuck up on some folks, the bubble kind of atmosphere. They were more disciplined, ready to go, and people viewed it that way. I think that also with the arrival of Kevin Durant in Brooklyn, that's going to steal the attention of a lot of folks. Of course, the Greek Freak is going to get his attention because he just signed for $228 million, an average of $45.6 million a year. And then you look at Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey, both in Philadelphia, with them adding a Seth Curry and some shooters to their squad. So now we're looking and waiting to see, even though we're not sure that they're going to be the team. Clearly, they've tweaked things and they're moving in a forward direction. When you consider that Elton Brand is still there, Doc Rivers has arrived, and Daryl Morey is your president of basketball operations. The combination of that with the Greek Freak signing, with the Brooklyn Nets getting a healthy Kevin Durant into the equation to go along with a healthy Kyrie returning from the shoulder surgery, the Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie's of the world being there. Those three teams have stolen so many headlines. And the one headline that we've had from Miami, other than signing Bam Adebayo to his extension, is the fact that they're not going to get the Greek Freak because it's rather than approach free agency with an open mind, he closed the door on all of that by re-upping with Milwaukee. Those things have Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Philadelphia in the mind's eye, and that is why everybody has been ignoring the Miami Heat.
I agree with some of that, but I think you can sum it up much more simply. It comes down to this. Fans know, because everyone who's experienced the NBA over a number of years they know it in their gut, that unless you have an MVP caliber player on your roster, you're probably not going to win the championship. And when you look at the Heat, you don't see an MVP. Jimmy Butler's great. He's a perennial all-star. He's just the kind of guy you want on your team. He's not an MVP. Not in a league with LeBron James and the Freak and AD and KD and those kind of. That's why you identified those guys. The Freak's in Miami and KD is in Brooklyn. You're mentioning MVP five-star players. So we're not used to seeing teams like the Heat with just multiple all-stars. That's one reason. There's no MVP. But number two is because you sleep on the roster. People just sleep on this roster. Think of how many guys can go get their shot under pressure at an above average level, right? You don't even think about Dragic. Dragic does work in the playoffs. These are playoff tested guys who can go get a shot, right? Go get you a bucket when you need it. Jimmy Butler, obviously. But here's another. Tyler Hero. Because you don't think, when you think of the Heat roster, you think Jimmy Butler and Bam, and obviously Duncan Robinson can bomb, and Jay Crowder's a Swiss Army knife player who can also shoot, and Kendrick Nunn, you like all these players, and you throw Tyler Hero in that mix. Not stopping to think, this dude can go get you 35 in a conference finals. He's that kind of player, and he's only 20. He's not built like a defender. He's not like a long guy who's ever going to be like, oh my God, a shutdown defender. But offensively, Tyler Hero may be just scratching the surface. Guys 20 years old playing like that in the playoffs. So now you look at the roster and go, no, they don't have an MVP, but damn, they got your all-star leader in Jimmy Butler, another all-star caliber player in Bam. Dragic can go get his shot in crunch time and is really a plus player. Tyler Hero is a rising star, and then you got all of this other stuff around them. Well, that's why there's no MVP. And people are basically sleeping on the roster.
Well, listen, Crowder's gone. He's in Phoenix now. Secondly, when you look at the Miami Heat.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. That's right.
Goran Dragic is coming back. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all right. It's okay. It happens. So the point is that you got that going on. And listen, I like what I see from them in terms of the young player, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. They're the future. They can really shoot. Tyler Hero really showed himself. Butler's still there. Bam Adebayo is there. But when you look at Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee, the Miami Heat, as constructed, isn't supposed to be able to beat at least two of those teams. Not if you bring your A game, and I think that's how a lot of people do it. Like you said, you can say it more succinctly in terms of having that star, but those other teams have stolen headlines. But think about it. With Philly, you got Doc Rivers coaching Simmons and Embiid. In Brooklyn, you got KD and Kyrie. In Milwaukee, you still have the Greek Freak. And so when you look at it from that perspective, along with the fact that if you're coming out of the East, no one's really expecting you to beat the Lakers anyway. All of that would contribute to the Heat being ignored. But they're still a playoff team. They're still the reigning Eastern Conference champions. And by the way, I think because of perimeter shooting, which they can deliver, they're going to have a lot to say about what transpires in the East when all is said and done. They'll get to the conference semifinals, and we'll see how they look from there.
You know, they got
the Bucks and Nets.
all-star caliber players. Sorry, Miley. No, I'm just saying they got, like, I think a lot of it comes down to how you perceive Tyler Hero. Like, Duncan Robinson can shoot the lights out. But if you think of Tyler Hero more like an all-star than just some kid who's coming up, and he plays like an all-star in the playoffs, all of a sudden you're like, Bam, Butler, Tyler Hero. You got 3 all-star caliber players plus all the other dudes. I don't know. They're a whole lot of. And then there's the Heat culture with Pat Riley and Spoelstra. That's a whole lot of.
Yeah, but according to Vegas, they're still betting on the Bucks and Nets ahead of the Heat, even though they're the defending champs there in the East. All right, guys, when we come back, Big Perks joining us, and we finish up our NBA season preview. Giannis, AD, and LeBron up next. Oh, my, don't miss those debates in just a bit. Max, Stephen A., and Perk. Get off to a slow start.
Not at all. Not even a little bit. Matter of fact, I expect them to. I wouldn't mind if they do. I have no problem whatsoever. When we talk about load management, is much as I have been profoundly against that over the years. It's with the exception is LeBron James. If LeBron James, for any reason, said, you know what, I don't want to start playing till January. As a league, we should stand up and support him. Seriously. I mean, with the work that this man has put in, it doesn't bother me at all. And so I know he's not going to do that. That's why he showed up there last night. He's going to be ready for opening night, at least to some capacity. But I think that if the Lakers do start off, I'm not concerned at all, because not only are they great, they're experienced. So when you look at LeBron James, I think that this is one of the rare breeds that has graduated to the point where he doesn't even need to be questioned about anything that's taking place in the regular season. Everything about him should be measured by postseason play. If this guy decides to take his foot off the gas, if he decides when to amp it up, whatever the case may be, you defer to his judgment. When you've been to 10 NBA finals, when you've won 4 championships, and when we just finished experienced a global pandemic, the likes of which we hadn't seen for a century, and somehow, some way, when we consider the collapse that we witnessed with the Los Angeles Clippers because of them being devoid of leadership and what have you, although it was nice to see Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Kimmel last night. Bottom line is that LeBron James and the Lakers didn't have that problem. And so I don't think there's anything to be worried about with the Lakers, a slow start or anything like that, because they have the greatness of Anthony Davis, who's one of the top 3 players in the world. And they have the best player in the world, who's the best leader in basketball. And that man is LeBron James. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about.
I don't know what's happening today, but for the second straight segment, I don't know maybe I have a fever or something. I don't know. I'm coming down with something. I agree with Stephen A. I agree. Maybe for slightly different reasons, but right on. I'm not worried about the Lakers' slow start at all. Stephen A., let's be honest. The LeBron James teams of the past have often started slow, right? Miami had a slow start at one year. Cleveland had some slow starts, because LeBron's figuring out, how do I get this group to the promised land? And in the meantime, he's 100 years old. He has more miles than anyone on his legs, and he has to pace himself. Now, last year, Anthony Davis came on First Take and told us he challenged LeBron to set the tone on defense. And I think AD was probably right last year, like with a new group of guys and this superstar combination. It's important for your best player to set that tone. And for a lot of the season, LeBron did play better regular season defense than he had in years. But given his age and his mileage, it's, I think, not responsible even to expect him to play defense, for example, all regular season. And sometimes the other guys on the team, even if AD's setting that example, slack off a little bit too when their leader doesn't do it, although Montrezl Harrell plays some defense, some other guys will.